Every reputable economist, no matter his or her party affiliation or political leanings, has said the 2017 tax bill rushed through the House and Senate without public hearings will cause the national debt to increase by $1 trillion or more over the next decade.
The CBO estimating that the latest version of the House tax bill would cost $1.7 trillion over a decade. Now that number is significant because lawmakers cannot go over $1.5 trillion over a decade. So this puts them above the number that they are allowed to hit according to the special rules that they're using to try to pass this with only Republican support. Now, the actual provisions in the tax bill are only worth $1.4 trillion, but because this adds to the deficit, the CBO is saying that the interest payments, those higher interest payments the government would have to make, are what puts this tax bill over that $1.5 trillion limit. So currently, that latest version of the House tax bill, not compliant with those special rules they need to fast track this bill. Back over to you.
The Congressional Budget Office fixed that number at $1.4 trillion, plus another $300 billion in added interest on the additional debt, for a grand total of $1.7 trillion. This from the same Republican crowd that once preached fiscal responsibility, to the point of shutting the federal government down when they did not get their way. So why would these so-called fiscal conservatives load the federal government with so much more debt? The answer is clear and easily understandable if you can think at least two moves ahead on the chessboard. In 2011, then Budget Committee Chair, now Speaker Ryan, put forth his so-called Path to Prosperity. His radical plan to shrink the federal government by cutting back on the social safety net that was built up over the 20th century. His Path to Prosperity passed the Republican-controlled House, but died in the Democrat-controlled Senate. There are a few salient points from that 2001 document worth reminding the Speaker and his Republican colleagues. Page 55 of the table of contents tells us, then on page 10, Budget Chair Ryan told us, quote, Americans reject leaders who focus on the pursuit of power at the expense of principles, close quotes. Explain that to many elected officials, including our moron-in-chief, who supported Roy Moore for the Alabama Senate seat. And for emphasis, on page 11 of the Path to Prosperity, we have this rhetorical question, quote, will this be remembered as the Congress that did nothing as the nation slouched toward a preventable debt crisis and irreversible decline? Then on page 56 of the Path to Prosperity, we read about this crushing burden. Representative Ryan foretells the future when he sees, quote, spending on Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and interest on the national debt eclipsing all anticipated revenue by 2025, close quotes. With a clear warning from his 2011 Path to Prosperity, does anyone doubt that Speaker Ryan and his colleagues intend to make significant reduction in each of those programs when the time is right? The election of a genuine moron who has no fixed political views presented the needed gift to Speaker Ryan and his smaller government supporters. He can give Trump the well-bought tax cuts for business and the wealthy, rewarding the Republican donor base while driving up the federal debt. Next, after a year or two of experience shows that the Republican 2017 tax cut bill did exactly as predicted in driving up that debt, Speaker Ryan will bring out his new or renamed Path to Prosperity, with its significant cuts in Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. The debt will then become the Republicans' only talking point as they try to sell the electorate on the urgent need to address the problem of their own creation. Their 2001 and 2003 tax cuts drove up the national debt, and their 2017 tax cut will march us down that same path to more debt. Raising taxes on the wealthy donors or business to address this, quote, crushing debt, close quotes, would be anathema to that group. So that will not even be discussed. And what makes all of this possible? a secretly drafted and poorly examined 2017 tax cut bill sold to the unsuspecting masses as a middle-class tax break by a billionaire serial liar in the office of president with the eager support of elected Republicans who really want to cut back on the social safety net. So can all you voters take a close look in the mirror and ask, am I the moron?